Hello, everyone, and welcome into the State 48 podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Matthews, bringing you all things AZ. And today on the show, we have Arizona Diamondback pitcher Merrill Kelly with us, also an ASU alum, kind of an AZ guy. Grew up in Scottsdale, but we'll get into his birthplace, all the languages his father speaks. I mean, we learned a lot here just prepping for the podcast. But first things first, we're going to do a quick little game called Complete the Sentence.
Let's
okay?
do it.
I promise nothing too crazy, but gonna make you think here.
Okay.
Blank was my favorite player growing up.
Craig Biggio.
Ooh, that was fast.
Definitely. My favorite number growing up was 7, and that was why.
Nice.
He wore number 7. I always liked how he had all the pine tar on his helmet and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blank is my favorite pitch to throw.
Changeup, for sure.
Changeup.
Yeah, getting the full swing on the changeup when they think it's the fastball, it's one of the better feelings for sure.
A highlight in my career has been...
Just any highlight, huh?
Any highlight? What first comes to mind?
Probably winning the Korean World Series or the Korean Series, 2018.
That is a big highlight.
Yeah, that was fun.
Getting 200 innings pitched.
Definitely.
Big highlight.
Yep.
We'll talk about that. My best friend on the team is...
How are you going to put me on the spot?
I know. I'm like, they're going to be watching.
All the boys are going to see this. If I'd have to go with my best friend on the team, probably the guy I've known the longest on the team, I'd probably say Christian Walker.
Okay.
Yeah. And I trust him over at first base, so he probably is a little bit better of a friend to me than maybe other people.
We were saying you like to golf a lot.
I do.
Mostly with the pitchers.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite if you had a team up on the team with?
Ooh, I could go different directions. If we're talking just for fun, probably Jordan Luplow.
Because what's that game where you like pick up? I don't know too much about golf, but you like pick up after someone hits.
Scramble.
Yeah. Your scramble partner.
My scramble partner would probably be Carson Kelly.
Carson Kelly.
Yeah, he's a stick. He's really good out there.
You were saying he was the best one, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, besides you. No. You're like working on it.
I'm probably, I'm up there. I would say I'm up there.
My favorite thing to do with the fam is?
Just hang out. Just chill at the house. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're gone so long during the season that when I do get to stay home, obviously I'm lucky and I get to be home all year.
Yeah.
But when I am home, me and my wife are both pretty big homebodies. We don't really venture out too much unless we have to. So, yeah, we both just like being at home and hanging out with Hattie now that she's old enough to, kind of give us some personality.
And you have 2 little golden doodles, right?
We do.
I'm a huge dude fan.
Yeah.
I have golden doodles too.
Yeah, we recently got some, not to bring the mood down on the podcast a little bit, but we recently got some bad news on our younger pup. Yeah, he's got some pretty bad cancer, but yeah, we had a little meeting yesterday. It sounds like he's going to be with us a little bit longer than what we thought. So, yeah.
What's his name?
Bodie.
Bodie.
Yeah, he's not even 4. He'll be 4 December 1st.
Okay, not to continue to bring the mood down, but my golden dude passed away last year at 4 years old too.
Really?
It's just like, yeah,
it sucks.
Okay, we're gonna pick things up
Sorry,
here.
Yeah, like I said, but we have another one. He's 6, Tucker.
They're the
He
best.
was our first guy. He's kind of Breeze. He was kind of Breeze Rock when I was over in Korea. The first 2 years we had him, I was over there, so she really leaned on him. So he's kind of her dog, and Bodie's kind of mine. So that's tough.
And then the baby, you have to get a third dog now.
Yeah, we might. Once Bodie goes, I think we'll probably get another one. Breeze already kind of touched on getting another one, so I think she wants a brother for Tucker, and
they're the best dogs, though.
They are.
So.
We love them.
Okay, to bring up the mood a little bit more here, I'm gonna throw out this question: who is the better dancer, you or Bree? Because I saw your moves, that clip of you doing a little. Can you give us a little?
With her, I can move my feet pretty well, but I don't know.
I saw that.
Past that, I don't know. I went through a little phase in high school. Me and my friends thought we were real gangster, and for some reason, I really wanted to learn how to sea walk.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I can sea walk. I can sit here and say that I can definitely sea walk, but I would say that's probably the extent of my dancing.
Producer Nicholas back there, can we move and adjust cameras so we can see the sea
I don't know
walk?
if we need all that.
For
I can
the viewing
I can do a
audience
little short thing sitting down right now, but
I remember sea walking. Wait,
yeah, I would do YouTube videos all the time. Like that's what I did for like hours when I was a kid, just learn how to like move my feet. But
I love that.
with my wife's background, I don't think I could sit here and say that I'm a better dancer than her.
No, and I did dance with your wife.
Yeah, so you can vouch.
At ASU, so a little tie in there.
Yeah.
Amazing dancer.
That's what I hear.
I was more of the hip hop hype girl too.
Okay.
I was sea walking too. I wasn't the Brie can turn for days and kick her leg up and amazing.
She said she hated ballet though. She said the one thing she hated was ballet. She said
everything you might
else.
Actually be really good at ballet with that turnout you did with the sea
I don't
walk.
know. I was working on my my ankle mobility this morning, so the ankles don't move as much as maybe I need them to.
I was gonna ask you, like, I know football players will sometimes take up ballet dance classes.
No.
It don't translate on the mound.
I think probably the closest thing I get to that is maybe Pilates.
Okay.
I started doing Pilates last year. My back fired up big time in the off season, and I kind of went on a little exploratory journey of different workouts and exercises and stuff, and I landed on Pilates. It's actually funny. Brie makes fun of me all the time because she taught Pilates for
I
think like 2 or 3 years before the pandemic, and I never went to take her class. So when I started doing it, she gave me some stuff for it, but I think it's helped a lot. I like it so far.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you have quite the story. The redemption story is what I would like to call it.
Okay.
Just your journey that I've followed. I mean, it's been amazing to follow your journey through Brie and her Instagram and keeping up with you guys through the years. But let's start way back in the beginnings for you. So Scottsdale is where your family kind of transplanted, but you've been all over the place growing up, correct? Take me through that little timeline.
So like I said, roots are all in Texas. My mom is from a place called Beaumont, Texas, which is right on the border of Louisiana. And my dad is from a town called Brownsville, Texas, which is, like I said, about as South Texas you can go, right on the border of Mexico.
Which is why he's fluent in Spanish.
Yes,
we find out.
But didn't teach me any of that. Thanks, Pops.
Would have been really helpful in the clubhouse. Would have been helpful
in my profession for sure. But yeah, he used to go across the border with his friends and kind of hang out and then walk back. This was back in, when he's 76 now, I think. So this was obviously, 50 years ago. But he said they would walk across the border, have their fun and come back. But I was born in Houston, went from Houston to Austin to the suburbs of Philadelphia, and then were there about 4 years, and then went from the suburbs of Philly to the suburbs of Chicago. Was there from 3rd to 8th grade, and then finally landed down in Scottsdale going into my freshman year of high school.
And you're playing baseball throughout every city that you guys were at growing up, or what did that look like?
Yeah, sports for us was always huge. I have a 2-year older brother than me. He was always the baseball guy. Growing up, I was always the basketball player. Growing up, I like to say I was a basketball player who played baseball in the off season, just because, you couldn't play basketball anymore. Season was over, but basketball is by far my first love.
Okay. Point guard?
Yeah, I was a point guard. I like to drive and dish. But if you ask me right now if I could be in the NBA or the MLB, I would pick NBA.
No way.
10 times out of 10. Not even a question.
And you're a big Suns fan.
Yeah, now. I've become a big Suns fan. Growing up, I think my team I would still say is the Bulls. Just because I got to see Jordan play when we were there, and obviously I'm a huge Jordan fan.
See the kicks.
So getting to see him and play in person, and all those guys, Scottie Pippen, all those guys, was really special for me. So I kind of latched onto him and that team when I was there. They haven't been as good since I moved here. They're definitely getting better. They got guys like Zach LaVine, and those guys are really fun to watch. DeMar DeRozan. But I just lost where I was going with that. But
the Suns are better.
Yeah, but the Suns are. Yeah, there we go. I'm definitely becoming a Suns fan. I think I enjoy going to the games. Obviously Book's fun to watch. Chris Paul, the guys they have are really exciting. And like I said, I always love watching basketball. So I'm definitely becoming a sport.
Okay.
A
Do you
Suns
still
fan.
play like in the off season or pickup games at the gym?
I have a couple times, and it hasn't really ended well. There's a couple times that I've tweaked my knee a couple times.
Ooh.
So I try to lay off it as much as I can.
Yeah.
When baseball's over, definitely we'll pick it back up.
So you got to Phoenix around, 14?
Yeah, summer going into freshman year of high school.
Okay, D-backs still fairly new, maybe 5 years in the mix. Did you end up latching onto that team as a fan just growing up here? No?
No, I was an Astros fan.
Oh,
unfortunately. Yeah.
We're not going to go down that road.
Yeah, obviously there's been some stigmas with them going on the last couple of years. But like I said, growing up, I was a Craig Biggio fan. So him, Jeff Bagwell, Jason Bell, when they had the killer, I think it was Jason Bell. No, that doesn't sound right in my mind, but either way.
That was what year?
Oof. That was when I was born in 88, so probably like the 90s, early 90s maybe. But all those guys, I paid attention to them a lot. So growing up, and growing up here when I was in high school, my priorities were kind of all over the place. So I didn't really, I liked playing sports, but I didn't prioritize them, I guess I'll say.
Yeah.
Until I got a little bit older.
So at what point you ended up going to a community college first?
Yavapai.
And then Arizona State,
yeah.
where somehow our lives crossed paths. We'll talk about that story. But what point for you was it, okay, I'm going to take this seriously to end up becoming a starting pitcher in the major leagues?
I mean, in high school, I took the game seriously. I enjoyed it. I knew I was good at it, right? Like you can tell, you can look around and say, all right, I'm better than most of the kids out here. But I would say the switch really flipped after my freshman year of college. So I got drafted out of high school, was going to community college because I didn't have the grades to get to ASU out of high school or any D1 school. Went to Yavapai my freshman year thinking that I'm just going to be here for a year, either transfer to a big school or get drafted again. Obviously, why not?
Yeah.
And at the end of the spring semester, I had a 5 ERA and a 0.5 GPA. So,
okay. Wow. We want to flip those.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, my priorities then were not where they needed to be. I had a girlfriend still down here, and I think that probably distracted me a little bit. I mean, I was back down here every weekend, every day that I could. Sometimes I would just take day trips down just because driving up and down the 17 like a maniac.
Yeah.
And I had Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech both call. And I think where I hit, not necessarily rock bottom, but where it really hit me and I realized that if I needed to do something with this, I needed to pick it up a little bit, was the Virginia Tech on the phone to me personally said, Merrill, we would love to recruit you, but we physically can't.
Wow.
And it was like, man, that's tough. That looks like I'm going back to Yavapai for another year.
Wow.
But I would say that
was the moment you're like, I'm stopping myself at this point.
Yeah. The look in the mirror moment happened, I think, after freshman year.
Wow. Yeah. So ASU days, what is like a core memory for you playing back Go Devils for the Devils? Obviously where you met your wife at the time.
I think she would like if that was my first answer for sure.
Yeah. So she's like core memory meeting.
Yeah. Meeting my future wife and mother of my child.
Yes. That's what you better say. And then follow up with secondary.
But I would say probably playing at Packard Stadium,
yeah.
Especially with them not playing there anymore and having it look the way that it does and have a bunch of work trucks and everything just sitting on it. With all the history that's in that stadium, all the guys that have come through that stadium and played there and went on to be really, really good major league players. I would say probably playing at Packard.
Yeah. It is a cool place.
It is. It was special.
So the funny story around this is the night that you met Bree, I happened to be at the party that we went to together, a few of us from the dance team, and that's the night that you guys met.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Shout out to Devin Marrero, my buddy, for having them over that night.
I would have never. And then when I followed up through the years, okay, they're still dating. Awesome. And then all of a sudden I see you, I'm watching the Padres game. Jody Jackson's interviewing Bree, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Why is Bree on my television screen? Just to find out, wow, okay.
Yeah, it took me 8 years to propose, but
come on,
we got it done.
Well,
I mean, we were both young, we had to get ourselves situated. And
that's a lot of movement, life moments. You're going, and we're going to talk about this, but you went to South Korea to play, reignite your career.
Yeah, Bree's been through.
And she's been through it all.
All of it. The minor leagues, Montgomery, Alabama, Durham, North Carolina, all kinds of places that she's gone and stuck with me the whole time. Still to this day, I can't really figure out why.
I love it. Bree, this part's for you. We'll clip this off.
But she's been through all of it, and she's been there for me obviously more than anybody else. So she's definitely seen all kinds of sides of baseball. She's seen, the grinding minor league side. She's seen the college side. She's seen the overseas side. I even played in the Dominican for, a month and a half in the off season, 2014. And she came down there and visited there too. So she's kind of seen the world just from, coming from baseball.
So let's get into that South Korea stint. You were drafted by Tampa Bay. they started to put you more in a reliever role, and you wanted to obviously be the starting pitcher that you are today.
Yeah.
And what was that whole experience like? One, knowing at that moment, okay, I'm going to go play KBO, right, ball out there. And then just what you gained from that experience truly to get you to where you are today.
Okay. So I'll give you kind of the background on how it came about too. We were in Syracuse, I think it was. No, it wasn't Syracuse. Either way, threw a game in the minor leagues. I think it went well, maybe 6 innings, couple runs. And I had a teammate come up to me. His name was Doug Mathis. He said, "Hey, there's a Korean scout here and he wants your agent's info." And I looked at him and I said, "He's from where?" He said, "There's a Korean scout who wants your info." And at the time, I had no idea there was a KBO. I knew of Japan. I knew guys went to the NPB. But at this time, I had no knowledge of Korean baseball at all. So I gave them the info, don't really think anything of it. They come in August of that year and try to get me over there at the end of 2014. I was still under contract with Tampa, so they would have had to buy me out. Tampa threw up a pretty hefty buyout, so the Koreans went away, and that was the last I heard of it. Ended up going to the Dominican that offseason, and then with a week left of playing down there, my agent calls and says, "Hey, the Korean team's back, and they want to try to make this deal happen." And it was what's called my protection year.
Right.
So either I got protected, got put on the 40-man major league roster with Tampa, or somebody else could claim me.
The Rule 5.
Yeah, exactly. So my Rule 5 date was coming up. It actually happened while I was in the Dominican. So I told my agent, I said, "Hey, let's wait till the Rule 5 day. If nothing happens with Tampa, if nothing happens with other teams, then we'll go." Because I still had 2 more years of control with Tampa after that year. So they could have sent me back up and down. They could have kept me in AAA. They could have done whatever they wanted. So after the Rule 5 date passed and nothing happened, we said, let's go. I expected to be there for a year, maybe 2. My original goal was to go over there and just get out of Tampa and just come back and see if any organization, kind of wanted my services. And then, 4 years later, I'm still there and
a World Series
and winning a Korean series. But it was, looking back on it, the best other than my wife.
Got to put that in there.
Other than that, it was the best decision I've made in my life by far. Just the life experience I got living in Korea for 4 years, I get to experience a different culture, a different brand of baseball, and kind of being in my own little bubble to force me to progress, not only as a baseball player, but as a person, kind of open my mind to different things and be open to a lot of things that would probably drive a lot of us nuts, just because it's such a different culture.
Yeah.
They do things, they operate differently than we do. And there's a lot of things that don't translate from their culture to ours.
Something that stands out to you?
I think the biggest thing is age, right? So over there, age is king. If you're older than somebody, I'll put it this way, if you're younger, like the term respect your elders is top of the food chain over there. Wow. If you're younger than somebody, it doesn't matter what status you are. It doesn't matter how much money you've made. None of that matters. If you're younger than somebody, if they ask you to do something or if they tell you to do something, you're doing it. And you're not questioning, you're bowing and saying thank you, and you're going to do whatever it is that they ask you to do. You're coming back and then you're moving on with your life.
Wow.
Which I think is, from what I observed over there, it's good and bad. I think sometimes they can get a little caught up in just saying it's okay, it's Korean style, and kind of getting away, that old guys can kind of get away with treating the young guys a certain way. And they would test us, they would test the foreign guys and see how much we were willing to put up with. But, guys have been going over there for so long that I think they know how we operate, and I think they know what we're willing to put up with and not. But I would probably say that was the biggest, cultural wise, I would say that's probably the biggest difference between us and them.
That had to be such a cultural shock.
Yeah.
Just to the lifestyle there, completely different. The language, did you pick up on
a little bit?
Okay.
Yeah, probably not as much as I should, just because we're spoiled and we have our translators.
Yeah.
So if we're forced to speak it, we have somebody to translate it. I probably got better at reading it than I did speaking it. The alphabet's actually not too complicated once you start getting the sounds and the symbols down. But the problem is I would read it, but I wouldn't know, what it says.
Yeah.
I could read it and I could make the sounds happen, but then people would look at me and say, well, what does that say?
Right.
Well, I don't know. It's some Korean word. I can just sound it out.
That's crazy. Okay, so the craziest thing that you ate over there, Obviously, food being a big part of their culture.
I would probably narrow it down to two things. One, they're really big on intestine over there.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you heard that right. Intestine.
Intestine,
however you want to pronounce it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a delicacy over there. They have a lot of different ways to prepare it. I've seen it in soups. I've seen it in just regular dishes. I tried it once.
Throw some sauce on that?
Yeah, definitely threw some sauce on it. The texture is not the best. It's a little chewy. And for me, I just couldn't get past, what used to be.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, I just couldn't get past what used to be in it.
You're about to hurl right now.
Yeah, basically. That, and I tried cow's blood one time.
Okay.
So we were at a meal with our player director. I think our GM was there. They would take us out to dinner, kind of once a month just to check in, see how we were doing. They brought a soup right in the middle. They're really big on soups at every meal pretty much. And there's a giant red block, looks like just a cube, dark red cube right in the middle of the soup. Oh, and I looked at one of our guys. I said, "What is that?" And they wouldn't tell me until I ate it. They said, "Try it and then we'll tell you."
Nope.
So reluctantly, I was like, all right, I broke off probably the tiniest piece that I could. I put it in there. It tasted probably how you think blood would taste, kind of irony and not very good.
What?
So I ate it and they finally told me, it said, yeah, it's cow's blood. So it was just a giant block of like coagulated, like Jello cow's blood.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's a no for me, a hard no.
So I said, all right, I'm never eating that again.
What are I'm going to actually Google this, nutritional facts behind.
Couldn't tell you.
Like what?
Couldn't tell you.
But hey, every culture is different.
But I love the food though.
So the KBO is known as like a hitter-friendly league, correct? So how were you able to, or how did that just help you fine-tune yourself mechanically to be able to then prepare yourself for the majors?
You give up enough homers, you can probably figure out something to change, when I went over there, I think it's changed a little bit. I think they changed the balls. The pitching has gotten definitely better since when I first went over there. But when I first went over there, I would see balls just flying out of these stadiums. And a lot of them are a little smaller because I think that's what they pride themselves on. They pride themselves on being a good offensive culture, I guess. I think the Japanese are a little bit more on the defense pitching side, but definitely what Koreans hang their hat on is their offense. So like I said, if I saw the ball getting whacked too many times, but I think that's what was good for me to go to Korea is I had to be my own pitching coach. Even though we had pitching coaches, they spoke a completely different language and we might be trying to figure out the same problem, but they might attack it a little bit differently or it might get lost in translation or whatever the problem is. So I really had to go internal and try to figure out everything for myself. But I think that was probably the best thing for me is that I was able to do that and be in my own little bubble and really focus on one thing and trying it. And if that didn't work, then I'd go on to the next one. But at least I didn't have, this coach in one ear telling me to do this and this coach in the other ear telling me to do this. I had to focus on one thing that I could handle in my brain at that moment and just try to hammer down on that and then kind of move on to the next one.
Yeah. How much does that now translate to today?
I think a lot. Yeah. I think a lot because even though I do have obviously people who speak English to me now and can translate what they're trying to tell me, I think everybody at the level, especially when you get to the big leagues, I think everybody's got a pretty good idea of what they're doing, right? Like they wouldn't be there unless they knew how to do something really well. You can obviously fine tune stuff and that's where the coaches come into play. Maybe you can learn a new breaking ball or a new angle on a certain pitch or try to get it to spin a certain way. But I think everybody at this level is their own pitching coach and has been probably for a long time. So when I got there, 19 for me was a bit of a struggle, honestly, just because things were moving so fast. I was a 30-year-old rookie, but you wouldn't have been able to tell. You probably thought at the time I was acting like a 21-year-old. I was still so in awe that I was even there, just because it was the thing that we've worked for our whole lives. And going from a clubhouse that I didn't understand anything that was said to going to a clubhouse that I understood everything, it was just a lot. And like I touched on before, like I'm pretty, I guess the word's a cozy person. I like to kind of stay in my own little bubble. Yeah. So to get thrust into that and with everything that comes along with the big leagues, at the time I didn't really realize it And I remember Mike Hayes and Tori sitting me down before the year and asking me how I was dealing with the family stuff. And, are there people coming out of the woodwork, and how are you doing with this? And at the time I was like, guys, I'm fine. What do you mean I'm 30? I'm not a 21-year-old right now. But they were right. Definitely with friends and family that were, it's all out of excitement. It's all for good stuff. But, friends and family that would hit us up all the time, want to come to the games, want to sign ball for this kid or this kid. It's
overwhelming quick.
Yeah, it starts moving fast. And then you try to add that with, trying to get Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis out. The ball starts rolling really, really quick.
Yeah.
So I had to struggle to get through that year, but ever since then, it's kind of been a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, it's in a good spot now.
Before we get more into your career here with the D-backs, what was that environment like in South Korea game wise? Because, I've been to games in other countries and it's just like all in, like a different feel. Yeah. What was it like over there? I'm wondering.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's just like here, some stadiums draw better than others. But when you start getting into the playoffs and stuff like that, I don't know if you've seen any of the videos or any of the games that they were televising during the pandemic, but they have.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
So they take baseball very seriously over there. And the cool thing about Koreans is when they get excited about something, they get very excited about it. They're a very kind of almost like a childlike culture. When they get super excited about stuff, they almost get, giddy, like, so the games are no different. Every hitter has their own song that the fans sing the whole time that hitter is up.
What?
Yeah. So
that's not distracting at all. Like how?
Yeah, you get used to it. You kind of tune it out. But my first year over there, I remember during the exhibition games, during our spring training games, that stuff didn't go on. So it was just like a normal baseball game like I'm used to.
Okay.
And then opening day, I walk out and there's chants going on from both sides. There's songs going on from both sides. There's cheerleaders, there's drums, there's music being played. I look around, I'm like, what is going on? Yeah. But the more I was over there, the more I actually enjoyed it. I think American baseball could honestly benefit from some of the stuff that they do. Yeah, for sure. Especially at Chase Field, it gets a little stale there sometimes. So if we had, if Christian Walker had a walk-up song, and it fills, kind of fills the space. Because like I said, the whole time Walk is hitting, there's his song being sung.
Wow.
And the cheerleaders are getting all the fans interacted. They have those, what are those things called? The little boomsticks or what they are? Yeah. The whole stands will have those, and they're just literally chanting and singing their hearts out.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun.
That is special.
Yeah,
so winning the series over there, the championship over there, I'm sure was nuts.
Yeah, because you've got half the stadium for us and then half the stadium for them. So the whole time that we're at bat, the whole half, because it was in the stadium, it was in the Olympic Stadium. It's called Joms Hill. It's right in the heart of Seoul. Okay. So when they had the Olympics over there, they built this stadium just for the Olympics, and they still use it. 2 of the teams in Seoul split it. So yeah, it holds probably about 30,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So on our side, it was about 15,000 for us and 15,000 for them. So when we're hitting, we have our guys going nuts, and then when they're hitting, you have their guys going nuts, and it just kind of goes back and forth. It's almost like a soccer game.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a heated soccer game in the middle of Europe. Like, what would be your song then that you don't mind hearing over and over again?
Pitchers didn't. We didn't get songs. It was only the hitters.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You never went up to bat?
No, not over there.
Oh, okay.
Not over there. Pitchers don't hit over there. They've got the DH. Yeah.
Did you like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not very good at hitting. Anybody that paid attention to the last couple of years for me hitting knows that I don't enjoy hitting.
You have to focus on your pitches. I never get on pitches.
Well, I stopped hitting after my sophomore year of high school. Okay. So the last time I saw live pitching before I got to the big leagues was when I was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I went from guys throwing maybe 88 to Jacob deGrom in Citi Field in New York. So
it's always exciting though when you see a pitcher like make contact, get a good little first base hit there.
I put one back in play against deGrom. I hit a little 2-hopper right back to him.
That. Okay.
And I actually got high fives when I got back in the dugout just for putting a bat on it. So I felt pretty good about that one.
So if you were a hitter, what would your song be that you don't mind hearing over and over in your at bat?
Ooh. Oh, you mean like an actual song?
It's not songs, they sing?
They sing.
Wow.
So
that's another level.
Yeah, so they have, and they've even like made them up. So they make up these songs. Some of them have themes that you might recognize. Like some of them are to the tune of Indiana Jones, or some of them are to the tune of,
How do they even like organize that? That just is like,
I don't
that's
know.
beyond
They're crafty.
me. I don't know. That makes fandom over here just seem like we need to step up our game.
I think so. And they, I don't know how they teach it to them. I think they probably come in maybe Fan Fest or something like that. But the guys that have been there for a while, obviously those ones stick because everyone knows them. Right. But when a new foreign guy, I've witnessed when a new foreign guy comes over, they have to there'll be a fan section that sits right behind the dugout. Those are the main people that they, project to. Mm-hmm. And I've heard them while we're practicing, they'll be out there practicing it and reviewing it and teaching it to them. Yeah.
Look at that. That's like training involved here.
Yeah, it's wild. They take it so seriously.
I love that.
Yeah. It's
okay,
cool.
So talk about more life moments. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you signed your contract to become a Diamondback the day of your wedding.
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, December 1st.
So you're celebrating, obviously, this huge life moment, getting married. To Bree, shout out to Bree again. And then your dream come true.
The same day I knew I was going to be in the big leagues. Yeah, it was a fun day. It was a really fun day. A really fast day. Yeah. It was definitely a blur.
I mean, weddings are always a blur, but then throw in the mix of like this huge life moment that you've been working.
Yeah. And obviously I had all my buddies with me, all my groomsmen. So cool. We were getting ready, and I told them what had happened or what was about to happen. So obviously we got to start the day off on a pretty cool note and just kind of rode that into the wedding.
Was that pretty surreal for you, of like all places to end up, obviously growing up here in Scottsdale, going to ASU, and then just to say, I'm an Arizona Diamondback now?
Yeah, it was definitely a special day. So when I became a free agent, we had been talking to a couple different teams. We knew the San Diego Padres were going to make an offer, and we knew the Boston Red Sox were going to make an offer. Okay. But my whole time over in Korea, and even coming back, we hadn't heard the Diamondbacks name once. I had no idea they were even interested. And then the day I became a free agent, my agent calls me and says, "Hey, Arizona's calling and they want to make something happen." We knew, like I said, those other teams were going to make offers. But at the time, it was going to be both of them going to be 1-year offers. So my agent went back to him and said, "Hey, if you want to get something done," he's interested, obviously, because he lives there, but it's probably going to have to be more than 1 year. Mm-hmm. So they came back with the offer that we agreed upon. It was a 2-year deal with 2 more options. And, coming back from Korea, I didn't know. No better place. Yeah, exactly. I didn't even know what to say at the time. I called my buddy. There's a guy named Jamie Romack. I played with my last 2 years over in Korea. He actually played for the Diamondbacks for a quick second, but he was one of the first people I called. I got pretty close with him over there. And I called him I remember we were out on the green belt right in front of our house throwing the ball for our dogs. Oh. And I called him and told him what was going on. And we both I couldn't believe it. The fact that I was in South Korea 4 years ago, and now I'm going to be, in a rotation, a guaranteed spot in a rotation on a big league team. It was still to this day, I have trouble putting it into words just because it was, took me 30 years to get there.
Yes. And you also, I would think, appreciate and value the word home more. No doubt. It's just, you're not going to, the apartment or rental space or separated from your family, and you're able to have your roots here, which is pretty incredible. Yeah.
And my whole family's here, and obviously Bree's whole family's here. And just being away for so long, being in South Korea for so long and having that time change with her, and just my family. I mean, if I went to sleep early or if she woke up late or vice versa, we would just miss each other that day. That was it. We'd talk to you tomorrow. We'd talk to you in another 8 hours. So to be able to know that don't have to leave my house. Not only I went from across the world to, my backyard, I couldn't turn it down.
Yeah, spring training's here. Yeah, everything. And go right into the flow of the season.
I don't have to find a place to live for spring training. I don't have to pay a mortgage and a rent during season. Right. I don't have to pack any of my stuff. The only time I pack is to go on the road and come home. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the best parts about staying at home. It's when we come off the road, all the guys, like you said, they go to their rental property, right? It's either they rented an apartment from one of their friends that they know out here, or just find something to rent for the time being. I think the biggest difference is once I get off the plane, I just drive home.
So nice. Yeah. Home sweet home.
Yeah.
So you talked about, coming into the majors, being a 30-year-old rookie, and really coming to a place of trying to maybe just realize the moment or just accept that you belong here, know that you belong here, and that confidence. What kind of strengthened your belief and your confidence within yourself?
I think just time. Like, I don't think I was fully confident, really felt like I belonged until last year. I think it took me that long. I mean, I knew I was good enough. I knew, the track record that I had over those couple of years was pretty good. I mean, it was, if you look at the stats wise, kind of average. I've always prided myself on throwing a lot of innings, and I was able to do that, except for, 2020 when I had my thoracic outlet surgery.
Yeah, that's a crazy story. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
But keep going.
Yeah. But it wasn't until going into spring, even before I signed my extension in spring last year, it wasn't really until going into spring last year that I really could walk into the complex with complete calmness. Because growing up, I always watched baseball. I was always a baseball fan. I still had the big leagues on such a pedestal. Like, I would always look around, even my clubhouse, I'd walk in, Robbie Ray, Archie Bradley, these guys that have been there for a while. And I still viewed them as better than me for whatever reason it was. I think I was the guy coming into the clubhouse, who's this guy from Korea? We just signed him to a 2-year deal. He's never been in the big leagues.
Right.
These are the thoughts that I had in my own head. Whether they had it in theirs, I don't know. Probably not, and getting to know those guys, they're awesome dudes. But
we have our own limiting beliefs.
Exactly.
So you're walking into the clubhouse and you're looking
major
around,
leaguers.
And you're a major leaguer, but you're looking around and maybe have that identity, crisis of, okay, I have this opportunity. Did it ever feel like the weight of the opportunity is what was messing with the mindset?
I don't think so, because I signed a 2-year deal originally. My original deal was 2 years guaranteed, no matter what. But you
didn't want to go in the bullpen.
Yeah, for sure. So, that's not an option. That's why I went to Korea, because to not be in the bullpen. Yeah. So, but I just think, like I said, I think I put it on such a pedestal. I think I still didn't think, even though I had signed the 2-year deal, I was guaranteed a spot in the rotation. I was on the team. Just for some reason, it took me a little longer to really realize that and kind of realize the value that I had, to contribute to the team.
Wow. So what do you think was the turning point for you that truly allowed you to make space for who you are, what you're capable of bringing to this Diamondbacks organization?
I think just, like I said, just getting through the last 3 years. The last 2 years on the deal were not guaranteed. There were options that they chose to pick up. So I think with each of those, them, even though with what I had considered very average years, to them, they picked up the option without even questioning it. So for me, the longer I'm in a place, it was the same thing in Korea. Korea, the first year, I was looking around like, what did I do? Where am I? Why am I here? What did I do with my life? But by the end, I was walking in there. These guys were my family. Like, I saw them every day. I was around them. So for me, it just takes a little bit of time, especially with new people. I'm not great at opening up really quick. I kind of get to know you to really truly feel comfortable around you for a while. So I think it's really just been that. It's
adjustment.
It's been the adjustment period. I've seen guys come and go. I have my locker every year. So I think just being there for 4 years for me is the biggest difference. Just knowing that, and obviously seeing the success, right? Like, especially after how I pitched last year.
Yes.
But there were flashes of it, right? In 2020, before I got hurt, I was pitching the same way that I did this year. So I think just with me, seeing the results more and more and more and more obviously leads you to more confidence, right? If, like I said, I touched on Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, and it's like the more I got those guys out and the more I just saw them as other players rather than, the all-stars that they are, then it went into more attack mode rather than, trying to be too fine and be too scared if they're going to beat me. The mentality now is, here it is, hit it. And if you do, then whatever, I'll get the next one and keep going.
Yeah. I told y'all this could be like a 2-hour podcast, but I do want to get into your, not to bring back some memories, but we love storytelling on this podcast. We've had some pretty interesting, coincidentally, stories of injuries and it's just been wild. So it's kind of like a theme here, I guess. You obviously have one yourself that I remember reading about don't know too much in depth about, but your blood clot in your right shoulder.
Yeah.
Which doesn't fare well for
life.
A pitcher
or just
life.
Yeah.
Yes. Life, blood clots, not a fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, take me through that bizarre injury you kind of knew something was up right away, but it took a while to be diagnosed, right?
Yeah. And it was missed. I mean, I definitely know it was missed. I don't know how it was missed, but it was definitely missed. I had been dealing with, so very beginning, I was in San Diego in the hotel, and I was doing some of my scouting homework. I was writing notes, and I looked down at my hand, and I noticed that it was had a little bit more of a reddish tint to it than it usually does. It's weird, whatever. Kept going, went through the day. We got home, and same thing. I noticed I would put my hands together, and my wife gets on me all the time for doing this, but it's just a nervous tick at this point that I'll put my hands together just to make sure that they're the same color.
I mean, now, yeah.
Yeah. So I started doing that more and more just because it was freaking me out a little bit. I went to our training staff one day, and I said, hey, what do you got on this? And they said, if anything, it's a good thing because it means that there's blood there, right? If it were all white, then we might be in trouble because it means their blood's not getting to your hand. So I said, okay. Kept going, and slowly but surely the feeling that I had and the color just started kind of creeping up my arm. And the word I use to them and the word I use now still is my arm felt sludgy. So I wanted to do this all day long because this is what made it feel better.
Wow. And
come to find out, the reason is the vein that I had the clot in is responsible for flushing the blood back out of your arm. So your body's smart, the blood is smart, it's going to find ways to get in. The problem was it was getting in, but it couldn't get back out because the main highway was clogged. So the thing was, I would wear a compression sleeve pretty much 24 hours a day because that was the only thing that made it feel better. It got to the point where I couldn't even touch my elbow because there was so much blood pooled that it would stop me from getting there.
And you were pitching throughout this.
Yeah, so that was the weirdest part. When I would start getting warmed up and the blood flow would go, it would feel better.
Okay.
So we didn't think anything of it at first. We finally went in for an ultrasound and an MRI on my neck. Both came back clear. So we said, all right, you're good. So there's two types of TOS, thoracic outlet syndrome. One is vascular, which I had, and then one is called neurogenic. It deals with more of the nerves up here. They get tangled up, they get inflamed, and that's where you get the symptoms from. So we were under the impression that it was neurogenic TOS. They gave me prednisone. I was on it for 9 days, and about day 7, it was only getting worse. So I went to our training staff again. I said, hey guys, I'm starting to get a little frustrated. Something's going on. That's what is supposed to happen isn't happening, right? Day 7 out of 9 of prednisone, if that was it, it probably would have taken care of it. So I threw a bullpen in San Fran, didn't feel right. We came back here. I was supposed to throw a game against Colorado. So I start warming up. I start going through my same routine, and it just my arm is blowing up. It's purple.
Swollen.
Yeah, swollen, twice the size of this arm. So that's when I finally went into Tori's office and said, hey, I can't do it. I can't. I got to shut this down. I know something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but I know something's wrong.
Wow.
That night in the shower when I tried to wash my hair, I couldn't even get my arm up to my head because it was that heavy. I had to get it up there because there was that much blood sitting in it. So that next morning, went in for an ultrasound. The technician found it within 45 seconds. Was in the hospital at 4:00 that day. They ran a catheter up, slept in the hospital that night with the catheter, and they dripped the medicine in to dissolve the clot. Mm-hmm. Woke up that next morning, went down, they checked it again. They said it was about 70% gone. So they said, we got 2 options. They said, we can either go in and suck it out, or we can put the catheter back in there and drip it out again. I said, go get that thing. I don't even care.
Go get it out.
Yeah, go get it out. So went back on the operating table, and it was kind of funny because the first time they ran the catheter up there, they didn't give me any medicine. It didn't hurt that bad. I was chilling with it. And this time they said, it's going to be a little bit more invasive. Are you sure you don't want any? I think it was probably morphine, right? And are you sure you don't want any morphine? I said, no, last time it wasn't bad.
Oh.
So they ran it up there, whatever machine they used to kind of suck it out. And I started feeling like this. I started feeling, I said, nurse, I started hitting the button. I started hitting the button. I said, all right, I'll take it. Knocked out for a couple minutes, woke up. And then 2 weeks later, I had, I think it was about 2 weeks later, ended up having thoracic surgery, and they took out this first rib. So my top rib up here on my right side is gone.
Wow.
They go in. It's pretty good. I have a little incision right here on my neck, and then I have a little incision right here at the top of my pec, like right underneath my collarbone.
Okay.
And I guess they go in somehow and
missing a rib.
And yeah, took out the top rib.
Wow.
They handed it to me in a little jar with some liquid in it.
They gave you your rib?
Uh-huh.
Why would they do?
I don't know. I guess it's a thing. Some people keep it. I've heard.
You didn't keep it.
So I went through all this exploratory research with it. I talked to as many people as I could that I knew that had it. Yeah, and I've heard crazy stories. I've heard people kept it in their back pocket while they pitched. I've heard people made necklaces with it. I've heard all kinds of stuff with this thing.
So is this common within?
It's a lot more common than I thought. Yeah.
Okay.
So the problem was, since we throw overhead, it's not natural, right?
Yes.
There's not much space in between your first rib and your collarbone up here.
Like, okay, let me see.
Yeah.
Which rib would it be?
It's actually above your collarbone.
Okay.
If you want to try to feel, I thought it was like below, but it's actually above your collarbone.
For those
it's a little
watching.
tiny rib. Yeah, yeah. It's a little tiny rib right above your collarbone.
Okay.
But the problem was there wasn't enough space in between my collarbone and that rib. So every time I would throw, that vein kept getting pinched and pinched and pinched and pinched, and eventually it became inflamed. Scar tissue built up, and that's how the clot formed.
So that is bizarre. Yeah. I've heard of Tommy John's. Obviously, that happens more. Unfortunately, more often.
A lot more often.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy couple weeks.
You didn't want to keep your rib?
I thought I was going to
make a little necklace out of it.
And it was sitting right there on the counter on the sink when I walked out of the hospital room, and I stopped and I looked at it, and I just said, nah, I don't want to. A, I want to leave that part of my life behind me, and B,
that caused a lot of
it was
a lot of trauma.
Yeah, it was a crazy. I'm not gonna lie, it was a crazy couple weeks. Like when I found out what it was. And then the thoughts went through my mind of what could have happened.
Yeah.
That's when I really started freaking out. Yeah, because I mean, we were flying. Like I probably took 2 or 3 flights. I pitched 2 or 3 games. And obviously
that's what I was gonna say. Flying makes it worse, like any type of blood clot. Wow.
Yeah. So it was once I found out what had happened, and the hoops that we jumped through to get to that point. It was definitely kind of trippy in my mind. It took me a minute to kind of get past it.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Because like I said, I'm in worst case scenario, that thing breaks off, and I'm not sitting here talking to you today. Wow. So
damn, you just went there. Damn.
Yeah, I mean, we went there. Those are the thoughts. Those are just the thoughts. True. Those are the thoughts that went through my mind. It took me a minute to get past it, but it worked out, and I was able. Luckily, a lot of guys don't come back from TOS as well as I did.
Okay.
So I'm very grateful that I was able to come back and basically be normal. So yeah, now that part's behind me, I'm glad it is, because it was
glad
not
you're
fun.
here.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously.
Yeah,
we're glad the family's glad you're here. All is good.
Definitely.
The future is bright for you. You're coming off such a great year.
Appreciate it.
Like I said, 200 innings pitched, which was a huge milestone for you that you were going after. What did it just mean for you just to accomplish that?
A lot. I'd thrown 200 innings one time in Korea. And I think just the way the game's played now, and with how bullpens are run and starting pitchers are managed, and this mystical 100 pitch limit that came out of thin air for some reason. I would love to see the research on it.
Does that piss you off, like
yes.
the way that the game is transitioning now to more strategy based off just let someone flow? And
and just the way I view starting pitching, that's how I view starting pitching. I want to go as many innings as I can. I want to go, like, the way I gauge my games is, did I go 6 innings or not? If I went 6 innings, I did my job. If I went more than 6 innings, then I did better. If I didn't go 6, then I'm not happy with it.
Yeah. Even so not a lot of players are able to hit this milestone.
Yeah, I mean, there was only 8 of us this year. There was 8 guys that hit 200 innings. I was pretty happy with it. Yeah, and I was happy that we made it a point to. I was happy with the organization that they made it a point to make that a priority.
Yes, everyone was rallying behind you, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, well, because at the end of the year too, we called up a bunch of young guys. We called up 3 different young guys, so we went through a 6-man rotation there for a little bit. And at the time, I thought it was going to threaten me getting there. And Tori and Strami definitely made it happen. So I appreciate them for doing that.
That's very cool. And then you're going to be pitching for Team USA. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. Really excited.
So how are you prepping for that? And how does that affect too as a pitcher? Because it's right into springtime, right? So then you're going to go straight into spring training.
I think what will happen is my spring training will just turn into Team USA.
Okay.
So I think it's in March. I think it's right after we get going in spring. So I think I'll be with the team for a couple days, and then the rest of it will just be depending on how far we go. The rest of spring, I think, will just be with Team USA rather than with the D-backs. Cool. Yeah, but I'm really excited about that. And we've got a squad. I mean, I haven't seen all the pitchers that have been announced yet, obviously, because they haven't done everybody. They said they weren't going to announce everybody during the playoffs. But from the position players I've seen that have committed already, it's going to be a pretty fun team to pitch for.
Very cool. I'm sure you take a lot of pride in that.
No doubt.
That's amazing.
No doubt.
Look at you. I told you this is a story of redemption. Got a rib missing over here.
I mean, if you would have asked me 8 years ago if you thought I'd be pitching for Team USA next year, I would have told you you're crazy.
Amazing.
Crazy. So,
well, tell people how they can continue to follow your journey. Are you a big Instagram guy, or?
I'm getting better.
Twitter.
I'm getting better. My wife and my my agency and my team have been kind of pushing me to get out there a little bit more.
So we're gonna see some reels with your dancing
Tori,
skills over here.
Tori said he's gonna bring it out one time, but he hasn't put me on the spot yet for it. Maybe if we make the playoffs, I'm sure it'll come out at some point. But
next year.
Yeah, but I actually ended up I have a private Instagram and I have a public Instagram.
Oh.
Yeah, so the private one is
AKA a burner account.
Yeah, it's just the one that my team, I guess my people around me have kind of pushed me into making. Okay. Like I said, I'm not huge into that stuff, but yeah, Mertman29 is my public one. That's where I post that's pretty much, I just post baseball stuff.
Very cool.
There's a lot of people out there that I don't feel like sharing my whole life with, so I keep that on the other side.
Public eye, but you're also gonna have a TikTok booming soon, I'm sure, with your dancing skills coming soon.
I'm not on TikTok. Follow. TikTok's a little too much for me, but Instagram and Twitter definitely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
Make sure you follow us on YouTube, State 48, for this pod release.
No doubt.